I see so many law firms, or really any kind of business, brag that they've got SOPs for everything. Guess what? SOPs are not the same as a great system. You can have a mountain of user manuals, but if the machine you're documenting is poorly designed, you're just standardizing mediocrity. That's the real problem. Most business owners think SOPs magically improve performance, when in reality, they only tell you how to use the existing system, flaws and all. Today, I'm going to show you the difference between systems and SOPs and why redesigning, or designing in the first place, your system is the key to skyrocketing efficiency, profitability, and quality. By the end, you'll see how focusing on better architecture, not just better instructions, can transform your entire law firm. So we lived this firsthand at Zimmer Law Firm. In our early years, 2017, 18, 19, we just wrote tons of SOPs. It helped a good bit. But when we redesigned our core systems, that's when we jumped from a 4-person, $350,000 a year operation to the same size team, 4 people, doing $970,000 a year. That's over $600,000 more in revenue with no additional staff. SOPs alone would have never done that. A system redesign is what did. So when it comes to systems versus SOPs, what's the difference? And think of it kind of like the car versus the owner's manual. A system is like a car: the engine, transmission, the aerodynamics, the suspension. SOPs are the owner's manual: how to change the oil, how to work the radio. The manual doesn't make the car faster. It just explains how to operate what already does. So SOPs are here to standardize. Systems are to optimize, right? SOPs let multiple people do a task the same way every time. That's a really good thing and very important. But if the underlying system is clunky or not that great, then you're just replicating a clunky or not that great process. Redesign the system first, then document it. There are some common misconceptions I want to talk about then with systems and SOPs. And the first one is that systems are SOPs or SOPs are systems. No. Writing down steps is not the same as rethinking the entire workflow. It's the difference between describing how to drive a 4-cylinder hybrid Prius or redesigning it into a 700 horsepower supercar. Another misconception is that SOPs alone improve performance. That is completely false. All SOPs do is to ensure consistency. If your process is inefficient, it'll now be consistently inefficient unless you fix the system itself. This is why it is so important to design systems. When we skip system design, we're just documenting flaws with the SOPs. So for everybody who just wants to jump straight into SOPs, you're basically building in the good and bad of your current process and system forever. You end up with a neat binder of instructions for a very flawed system. However, a well thought out system is like the blueprint. You decide, is this the best workflow? Do we need 10 steps or 5? Can we automate this part? And once that's polished, then you write SOPs that match it. Here's a real world example at Zimmer Law Firm through the years that I really want to work you through. So our old approach was, it took us about 27 minutes to create and send a proposal and engagement letter. Manually typing in some details, pulling from past ones, checking forms, and then creating an email and sending it all out. We wrote SOPs for this. It helped standardize it so that not just me doing it, anybody on the team could do it. We were documenting then a 27-minute process. So we asked ourselves, how can we make this faster and more efficient? Well, we ended up using automation tools and macros in Excel and Visual Basic and wrote a cool custom tool. But I really want to stress is that we hammered it down to 9 minutes. Eventually, we got it down to 90 seconds. These were not just system overhauls. That was a system overhaul, not just creating SOPs. With the new system, the SOPs were then click here, fill in these 3 fields. This is what goes in each. Done. We saved hours every week we did this. That's how you scale. That was the benefit of the system. So look, the key benefits of really awesome systems, the first one is scalability, right? A well-designed system can handle more volume or deliver higher quality without extra staff. You're also going to be able to get in higher RPE, revenue per employee. When each person can do more in less time, your team's output and your bottom line soars. And on top of that, it's a better client experience. Automated processes often mean faster turnaround and more consistent communication, and clients love that. The problem with SOPs is you're documenting a subpar system. It's kind of like a Band-Aid. When you redesign it, you can yield permanent time savings. Okay, so then where do SOPs fit in? It's just that we build the system first, SOPs are second. So after you build or redesign a system, then you do create the SOPs. That manual explains how to operate the new machine. And then we want to have continuous updates. So when we do a big overhaul, we often toss the old SOPs. Too many people try to tweak them. I'm going to be honest, it's just easier to start fresh so your documentation actually matches the new process. Here's a step that a lot of people forget or skip over because it's a lot of work. It's called testing. Have someone else follow your SOPs step by step. If they can't replicate the outcome and get to the end, fix the SOP. Or check if the system needs more refinement. Too many people skip the testing. And what happens is then they go, you would have to have this very high level understanding. When we create systems, we want to be able to delegate it down to the lowest person on the team. They can still learn more over time, but it doesn't require advanced degrees. Now, some of you are going to say, I don't have time for this. The problem then with that mentality and attitude is you're going to keep wasting time then every single day with an inefficient system. One chunk of time to redesign this can pay off exponentially in the long run. Remember, when we did this, we were able to start doing $600,000 a year more in revenue with the same size team. Credit to the system. It was worth the effort. Some of you are going to say, we've already got SOPs in place. I know, but remember, SOPs for a flawed system won't magically fix it. Don't confuse thorough documentation with a well-engineered and designed process. Oh, we need perfection. No, you don't. In fact, perfection will kill your system. I'm all about the Pareto principle. Aim for an 80 to 90% of the scenario. If something doesn't fit the system, then you can charge more or consider not taking that client at all. But if you build a system to work 80% of the time, it works almost always. So a few key things to set yourself up for success. When you're going to pick a system to go after, pick something that's high impact. Intake, payment, maybe it's payroll, or it's a practice area that you do constantly. Outline every single step, who does it and how long it takes. The reason that we start here is because we want to work on the things when we're redesigning systems that are going to give us the most lift. So if you do it once a month and it takes 5 minutes, how much, even if it went to zero, how much time could you save? Instead, we want to take the thing that we do 5 times a day that takes 25 minutes each time. Because then when we get more streamlined, we get huge wins for ourselves and our team. As we're redesigning, then ask, is there a better way? Can we automate something, outsource it, cut out steps, or reorder the tasks, right? That's where the real gain happens. Once the new system has been worked through and iterated on, it's ready. Show your team. Test it thoroughly. And rewrite SOPs from scratch. Make sure the new process actually delivers on its promise before you lock it in. So by focusing on system design, again, we scaled from 350,000 to 970,000 with the same 4-person team. That was a 2.7x. That's a huge ROI. No extra salaries, less chaos. It was one of the greatest things that we ever did at the law firm. I say this because so many people are in that 350 or 400 or 450 or $500,000 a year with that 3, 4, 5 people. It's not that that's bad. It's how much more could you do with that team if you made their lives easier. I want you to understand, we are not like pushing our folks to the breaking point. They have a nice, appropriate day, but the tools and systems in place allow them to get more done. If you're really thinking about this, this is exactly why you want to move to flat fee. This does break down in the hourly model because it's a flawed and broken system altogether. We'll do some videos in the future on flat fee and why it's really the way that the entire industry is going, because everything's going that way. But just understand, if you see gaps here and you do hourly, that's why. You have to start shifting to a value mindset and away from just trading your time for money. So when we're building this, then we want to look at time to complete tasks, revenue per employee, error rates, and client satisfaction. If those are all improving, then your system redesign is working. One kind of big piece of advice: documenting mediocrity is still mediocrity, okay? When you upgrade your car, then write the new owner's manual. Don't settle for like the little engine hybrid thing that just doesn't do much of anything just because you wrote instructions on then how to drive it. You can actually shift the entire car and make it more high performance, because we want high performance law firms. When you transition from, I'll just make an SOP for that, to let's redesign the entire process and find the best way, you'll revolutionize your firm's efficiency, profitability, and team morale. So in closing, if you keep cranking out SOPs for a flawed system, you're stuck with the same inefficiencies, just documented. You waste hours, burn staff out, and cap your revenue potential. But if you take the time to design or redesign your systems, then you let SOPs support that architecture, you can multiply your output without multiplying headcount. It's the difference between 27 minutes and 90 seconds, a total game changer. We went from okay-ish SOPs to a redesigned system in multiple areas, and that's how we nearly tripled revenue per person. No magic, no secret sauce, just a better car and clear user manuals to match. Trust me, once you see these results, you'll never confuse SOPs for systems again. So if you're ready to ditch the old clunky car, drop a comment or get in touch, and I'll share more about how we approach system redesign step by step. Let's get you building a real machine, then writing a manual anybody on your team can follow.